Right, we're going to talk about Warzone 2 today. It's been about a week now since I was playing the game in LA at CODNEX, and there's been a lot of discussion online, people talking about the new map, how the weapons might fit in, the looting, the pacing, all the different mechanics. And we're going to get into a lot of that because I think as the game stands right now, Warzone 2 could be in a bit of trouble when it launches in November. I've gone back and watched over my own footage about 2 hours to kind of pick out the elements that I want to discuss. And I think there's a few changes that could be made to sort of smooth off some rougher edges, but there are perhaps some fundamental decisions that have been made that could make Warzone 2 harder to live with than the original Warzone. First up, the new map, Mazrah. I only got to experience a very small portion of it, but I liked what I played. As I said, I only played for 2 hours. That only gives you so much time to move around certain locations, but you've got those classic Modern Warfare 2 areas like Terminal, High Rise, plenty of others. They're your familiar drop locations, and that follows on from Warzone's Verdansk that included some other popular locations as well. The new map is a fair bit larger than either Verdansk or Caldera, so pacing is very, very different. It's quite a bit slower at the moment, and I think over time, as we get our hands on the map in November at the launch of the game, we're going to learn if this is a map that's up there with Verdansk or not. I can't really say one way or another if the map is like good, bad, brilliant, or terrible, because I just simply didn't see enough of it. But what I can say is that no map is ever going to be 100% perfect. Mazrah is surely going to have some fun locations to fight on, but there will be some painful points as well. For all the current nostalgia trips that people are having for Verdansk, how many times did we all complain about roof campers and there was only one ladder that you could get up on the roof for? And how many times did we complain about all the dark interiors where Roskins would just camp? There's going to be those sore spots on Mazrah as well, and no doubt alongside that, you will have a lot of fun experiences. There will be interesting locations that people can explore. They're going to come across good and bad parts when this map launches, but from what I played, I had a good time in those locations. The first part that I didn't really care for too much is the new Gulag. It's not 1v1 on a small, intricate map anymore. It's now 2v2, where you team up with would-be enemies who've also been sent to the Gulag against another duo, and you fight to win. Or, if you fight and kill the AI in the Gulag, you can grab the jail key and just get out without even having to fight. For me, the tension just wasn't there anymore. The nature of a 1v1, it was that all or nothing outcome in the Gulag. You either lived or you died. Now, you've kind of got this get out of jail free mechanic where you could just try and find the AI for an easy win, or you can fight the players that are in there, but because you're having to play with someone else, maybe you have to communicate with them. It's someone that you don't really know, so you might be using in-game comms, and maybe they don't even speak your language. So is that going to be as fun as a 1v1 where it's just you versus the other person? Also, the key thing where you can open the door and let yourself out, that's kind of going to lead to some campy gameplay. If you kill the AI and then camp the key, you could get an easy kill on somebody coming over to try and pick the key up, or you could even let them take the key, think that they're going to get away, and then shoot them at the last minute as they try to extract. Sure, maybe you could say that there's some choice in the gameplay there now, but the tension, that's almost completely gone. I don't really think we needed this change, to be honest. It feels like a change for the sake of a change. 1v1 Gulag was already an innovation in Battle Royale, and it set Warzone apart from the rest. Part of me wonders if the developers saw how popular the 2v2 gunfight game mode was in Modern Warfare 2019 and thought they'd try and put it into the BR, but I'm not really sure if it was needed. Then I want to talk about the movement in Warzone 2. It mimics the movement in Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, so that means no more crouch sliding, no more insanely fast Roskins just skating across the floor to hipfire you covering 100 meters in 3 seconds. That's not going to happen this time. The pacing overall in Warzone 2, it feels a lot slower, and it feels like Infinity Ward have taken movement back to March 2020 when Warzone 1 first launched. Your character feels a lot more grounded, a lot weightier compared to current Warzone on Caldera or Fortune's Keep, and personally, I'm a really big fan of that. There's certainly been enough feedback over the last couple of years towards getting rid of slide cancelling. I know some people will say it's a skill gap for players to utilize, but to be honest, it was extremely powerful, and the feedback coming at the devs was always about getting rid of it, so they've done exactly that. I know right now there is a way to sort of get crouch slide working in multiplayer. It's kind of like an exploit or a glitch, but Infinity Ward is going to patch that out, so it won't be around for long. One thing, however, the movement feeling exactly the same as Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, it still feels very fast and fluid, which is great. It feels at odds with the overall match pacing, however. Circle closures would sometimes take like 5 minutes, and getting into circles 3 and 4, where normally the circle is much smaller, things start taking less time to happen, we were still waiting like 3 minutes for the circle to collapse. There was a lot of waiting around not really doing anything. So you've got a more grounded, more balanced movement system that is admittedly still quite fast-paced, which is what you'd expect from Call of Duty, but then the game mode itself felt insanely slow. And that's something that I think the devs will need to fine-tune. No doubt we're going to see changes to that effect in the first couple of patches for Warzone 2. That happened back in the early Warzone 1 days. They were always changing stuff. Oh, and I'll quickly mention here that circle split thing, where partway through a match, the circle will just like split into 3 different circles and go different ways and create different zones, each with them with their own set of players stuck in them, depending on which way the players decided to go. I think it's a pretty cool mechanic, but I think it might get very old very quickly if it's something that happens every single match. So if it's like a rare occurrence, maybe happening every 1 in 15 or 1 in 20 matches, that'd be pretty cool to spice things up. Maybe a bit like the jailbreak in current Warzone. It rarely ever happens, but when it does, it can completely change the game. And one other thing, this 3-circle split, it slowed down the matches yet again. Perhaps that's exactly what Infinity Ward intended with a feature like this, but to me, with such a large map like Al Mazrah, you really don't want to be splitting up players for too long and leaving them apart. Sure, you can split them up and force them to make some risky moves to get into a separate zone, but then you should be bringing them back together quite quickly so that the gameplay keeps flowing. If you split them up and then leave them apart for like 5 minutes, I think people are going to get bored. They don't want to sit around waiting for something to happen. That's what it felt like to me when I was playing anyway. Then we should talk about your custom weapons, the removal of loadouts, and how this, at least initially, is going to change how people play Warzone 2. Loadouts are gone. A big deal was made about that online after the COD Next event, and instead, you can now buy your individual weapons from buy stations. Those weapons in the buy station will mimic the ones that are in your loadouts in like the multiplayer menu, the ones that you customize in the gunsmith. Kind of exactly how it works in Warzone 1, but you're not getting a full loadout. You're just getting one weapon instead. Perks are not going to be available in Warzone 2 at the launch of it. Now, my concern is that the pricing seems to be way more expensive than how loadouts work in current Warzone. Right now, it's 10k for a loadout marker, you drop it, and then everyone in your squad can go over to that and get their weapons from it. But in Warzone 2, most of the weapons in the buy station were anywhere from about 8 grand up to about 12 or 13 grand. And that's just for one player's one weapon. So if you're playing quads, 4 people wanting to get their weapons, they're probably going to need to carry about 10 to 12k each just to get their preferred weapon kitted out with all the attachments they want. And if you want to have a nice secondary as well, well, that's even more cash. So potentially you're looking at like, 80, 90k for a 4-man squad to get themselves decked out with 2 loadout weapons in Warzone 2, which is eye-wateringly expensive compared to how it currently works in Warzone 1. In the build that I played, the whole system of custom weapons, the gunsmith, and having all of those customized weapons in the buy for you to purchase, that wasn't even working properly because you couldn't get in to customize your guns before you hit the matchmake button. It was all grayed out in that build, but the framework was visible in the game, so you could get the idea of what they were going for. And again, as I've said about the movement and the splitting of zones, this feels like another intentional move from Infinity Ward to slow the gameplay pacing down. It's going to take you longer to get your custom weapons, so perhaps you're going to spend more time using ground loot, or you're going to avoid those hotspots on the map to guarantee more cash pickups before you go and hit a buy station. I'm not sure that's such a bad thing. You're still going to be able to get your loadout weapons, but it's a very different process now, and certainly there will be some people out there that don't like loadouts being taken away. Loadouts were another unique selling point of Warzone as a battle royale, and that's now gone, so I'm kind of sad about it, to be honest. Oh, and one other thing, this new system, buying your guns direct from the buy station, that's going to really hurt your ability to regain a position in the match, because if you die, hit the Gulag and come back, well, you're not waiting for Circle 5 free loadout to drop in anymore. You've either got to go and dive your dead body to get your guns back, or you're going to have to go and find about 10 grand in the later circles and hopefully hit a buy station to get your weapon back. That in the later zones is going to be so much harder to do, unless you're coming back from the Gulag with a lot more cash than you actually need. And that's probably not going to happen. So that's not going to be a very enjoyable part of the new, loadout weapon system that's in Warzone 2. Late game, you're going to struggle. Right, let's get on to the part where I think Warzone 2 could really falter. The looting system. In the build that I played, which was advertised as alpha by the developers, the looting really wasn't that great. It felt very clunky, it was quite convoluted, and almost a tad unnecessary. Infinity Ward has replaced the standard looting of Warzone 1, where you just pick stuff up off the floor, put them into like this invisible inventory, and you had like a maximum amount that you could carry for each type. So say like AR, it was like 210 bullets, or SMG was 150. You kind of knew those off the back of your hand. We've now got a backpack system in Warzone 2 that you see in other battle royales. You can now place multiple different types of the same category of item into your backpack. So you can carry multiple lethals like thermites and semtexes. You can carry different ammo types and you can fill up multiple slots with those. So if you wanted to fill all your slots up with AR ammo, you could do that. You could carry 5 stims if you wanted to, but you've got to manage all of that within the backpack. And that comes up in the middle of the screen when you open it. The same goes for the crates that you can open. Those are still in the game, but instead of the loot just sort of spilling out onto the floor in front of you, it pops up a menu in the middle of your screen where you can choose which items you want to take from the crate and then place them into your hands or into your backpack. While you're doing this, you can't really move your character. It breaks you out of the menu. And it feels like a big step backwards to me, and once again it feeds into this slowing down of the pacing of Warzone 2. As I said, I'm fine with slowing down the pace of the game, but you should do it in a way that it isn't worse than the current implementation. And unfortunately, the looting system as it stands in this alpha build is definitely worse than the current Warzone implementation. Apparently, the backpack will backfill your on-person loadout with items, so let's say you run out of your equipped lethals, it will then take the next in line from your backpack and put them onto your person automatically. So they have definitely thought about how having a backpack system in Warzone 2 could potentially get in the way of certain gameplay elements, and they've implemented some solutions so you don't have to do all this manual swapping in and out, which I think is a good thing. But the looting itself with the on-screen menu sitting right in the middle, I'm not so sure that's a good way of handling things. Maybe stick it over to the side, get it out of the view in the middle, that would be cool. But literally taking me out of the gameplay loop and forcing me to look at a menu, the inventory or backpack in the middle of the screen, that's not a good idea. And then there's the concern of maybe accidentally picking things up and putting them into your backpack and replacing something that you actually wanted to keep. So say you're running around with an SMG and you need SMG ammo and you want to stack them in 3 different slots, and then you accidentally pick up like, I don't know, sniper ammo. And then you've now got less of the SMG ammo and you didn't even need to replace it, but the game did that for you. That requires a bit more thought and strategy, and I'm not 100% sure that's what Warzone players actually want. As many other people have already pointed out, having an inventory system or a backpack, that's something that could work really well in this new DMZ mode that's coming up, this extraction mode that's becoming part of Warzone 2, where the focus is to fight in teams, kill other teams, loot their bodies, kill AI, loot strongholds and stuff like that, and then take your gear with you and extract out of the game. A backpack in that scenario makes perfect sense. But in Warzone, the current system we have in Warzone 1, with this default inventory that can be filled up to certain thresholds of literally everything in the game, I think that works best. You're sort of just then focusing on the gameplay in front of you. There is a possibility, I will say, for cool gameplay moments with a backpack system like this. You could have more items in your backpack to call upon than just a loadout in your hands, but I think there's also balance issues that come with it as well. What happens if an entire squad is stacking 2 or 3 airstrikes in their backpacks, and then suddenly they've got this insane firepower when they get into a gunfight? Is that fair? I don't really think it is. If there are limitations on that, we didn't get told that that was the case, so we just don't know right now. I know Apex has this backpack system, PUBG has the backpack system, but Warzone never set out to be the same as those battle royales. And now Warzone 2, despite the huge popularity of the way that it used to be, Warzone 2 is going to have a similar system to these other battle royales. I don't know, to me it's one of those moves that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense, other than perhaps the system being implemented into Warzone 2 is exactly the same as the one that's going to go into DMZ. And so the developers thought to share that system between the 2 modes, and that might be a good thing for the player, maybe to help players understand how things work, to keep things familiar. I'm sure this new system for Warzone 2 will work and people will figure it out and it will just become second nature, but the way it's implemented right now feels very, very alpha to me. It didn't feel like it was properly finished, it felt clunky, it needs work. And one other thing that I want to touch on additionally to the looting is the plating system and the vests in Warzone 2. This game has 100 base health, and when you first drop in, you have that 100 health and 2 plates on you, 50 HP each, so you have 200 HP when you start. To get up to your normal 3 plates, you have to go and find an armor vest that allows you to equip 3 plates, and that will then take you up to 250 if you then put a plate in to that armor vest. You've then got to manage your plates on your person and the plates that you can store in your backpack to keep them flowing into your vest when you take damage. Plus, some people I saw had 3 plates with standard colors in the UI, and then some players had like this purple glow around the plate icons. No idea what that was about, didn't actually understand how it worked. Again, it feels like a complication of a system that already worked really well in Warzone 1. In that, you've got your base health, everyone can plate up to 3 plates, and then you can either carry 5 plates in pocket, or you can carry 8 if you pick up a satchel. Now, in Warzone 2, enemies could have 2 or 3 plates, giving you slightly inconsistent gunplay and TTK experiences, and there's potentially a way to stack so many plates on your person and in your backpack that you could elongate gunfights to the point that you could get a third party to come in and get involved in that gunfight, and then gameplay just dissolves into complete chaos. Again, I'm sure we're going to get used to the system, but without it being properly explained, it felt clunky and unintuitive. Then there's the AI in Warzone 2 and the way it's being implemented. I personally felt like the AI in the mode was just being added to fill the space more than to actually challenge you in any meaningful way, because it seemed like almost every building you went into had 1 or 2 AI just roaming in it, and the AI wasn't particularly smart. It would just slowly turn around and look at you and maybe fire 1 or 2 shots, but then you just fire 3 shots back and you'd kill it. It didn't really add anything to the gameplay, and to me it feels like these AI have just been added to fill the space on what is a very, very large map. Now, where the AI did make sense is in the strongholds, and these are locations on the map that you have to conquer by killing more difficult, challenging AI in order to get the high-tier loot that you're looking for. And also, if you take over the stronghold and you complete it, you'll get a token to use at the buy station that will give you one of your custom weapons for free. So that's a bit of information to remember for later. That makes total sense. The AI there worked really well. It makes these locations have a lot more value, potentially making them a distraction for different teams looking to come over, and they get stuck in gunfights with you, and it turns into a bit more of a battle. But the random 1 or 2 AI soldiers in these unnamed buildings that just turned around and looked at you, that didn't feel great, and I didn't see the value of having them in the game at all. And I'd say if Warzone 2 can support it, I think just having a higher real player count would be a better solution than filling the map with AI that doesn't challenge you. So to sort of summarize my thoughts and opinions here, Warzone 2 feels quite rough at the moment. It didn't really feel like it was finished, and that might sound a bit stupid to say considering this was an alpha build of the game. Sure, things aren't going to be 100% done, but you would expect that the core gameplay features would be locked down by this stage. If you're a developer putting out any kind of alpha product, you don't want to be getting feedback that your core features aren't really working very well, or people don't understand them, people are finding your features difficult to navigate. And unfortunately, that's kind of how I felt about Warzone 2 when I played it last week. The ideas are all there, and there's plenty of examples where work has gone into making these features work together, but some of them feel like overcomplications of systems that already worked well, or features that don't really feel necessary. And I am going to echo something that I've seen other creators say that were at COD Next that got to play Warzone 2 and have given their feedback, because I do actually agree with it. If the team can't get these features nailed down, feeling less clunky and out of place as they currently are, then they should probably delay the launch of Warzone 2. I'm very doubtful that will happen. They've already locked in that November 16th date. They put it as part of their big show. It's part of the marketing, but speaking from experience coming out of previous games like Warzone Pacific, where things were just completely broken at launch with Caldera, consoles didn't work, there were bugs all over the place, and recently as well, Battlefield 2042, where half the game just didn't work properly, and there was basically no content included. I'd say if you want to launch a product that people will be able to play and appreciate for how it was intended to be consumed, then a delay to that product might be a good option. As I said, don't really see it happening because they've already put out a date and they seem pretty committed to it, but the Warzone 2 that I played felt quite rough. And if that was an up-to-date build, I'm not sure how much can really be changed by the time we get to November 16th. Alright, that's pretty much all I got. Thanks for watching, leave your comments below, and I'll catch you soon.